2 lessons, which is rational expressions. We're going to look at adding and subtracting and multiply and divide. So those are the 2 lessons. This one is actually lesson 2, and this one is actually lesson 1. But we're going to start with add and subtract. Okay? Yes. Add, subtract, fractions. Yeah, everyone's favorite. Woo! Yes. Okay. So, how do you add and subtract fractions? Yeah. All right. So, common denominator. Now, I've been doing this a really long time. I hear some really interesting things about how to get common denominators. Butterfly, crisscross. I don't know what those things mean, but yeah, okay. So we're going to try to be a little more specific with your vocab and how to get a common denominator. It's actually called a least common multiple. Okay? The key word here being least. Okay? A common denominator is actually a least common multiple, which you do in elementary school. Least common multiple. And we're just going to do it by example, and we're going to keep them pretty simple, and then we'll get a little bit harder on the second day that we do this. Let's do 3x minus 1 over x squared minus 1 over x minus 2. Okay. Least common multiple. Okay, least common multiple. Those have to do with common factors. I need my denominators to be the same. But the only way to change a fraction is to multiply by 1. That's it. That's the only thing you can do. You can multiply by 1. 1/2 equals 2/4. You're like, yes. Yes, it does. Notice how they have different denominators. And so the only thing you can do is have a common ratio here. You multiply the top by 2 and the bottom by 2. That's how you get a fraction that is the same, but it has a new denominator. So if I say something like 1/6 plus 1/9. Yeah. What's the common denominator? The least common denominator. 18, not 54. I know that when you learn fractions, you're like, oh, put a 9 and put a 6 and add and multiply. You're like, 9 plus 6 over 54. Yeah, that works, but that is not least. When you have numbers, it doesn't matter so much. When you have variable expressions, it matters what the least is. I cannot just multiply x minus 2 here and put this polynomial here and then multiply those things together. It gets really big really fast. That's going to be a cubic in the denominator. I don't want cubic. So instead, we need to try to figure out the least common multiple. So I'm going to do this with an 18 instead. 18 is times 3. 18 is times 2. And then you add. Automatically it gives you a more reduced fraction as opposed to this one up here, which is 14 over 54. Because you cannot give me an unreduced answer. Oh, I can't add. What's wrong? 15. 15. Okay? I need reduced answers. I don't want this, I want this. And so if you can start in a more reduced format, it's going to make your work easier. So the first thing we're going to do is just factor this denominator. Factor the denominator. All you're going to do is swap the missing factors. You're not going to swap the whole denominator. You're only going to swap the missing factor. And so this one right here, and I would use another color so you can see where you started and what you did to the problem. The only thing that's missing is the x plus 1. That's the only thing that's missing in that denominator. And so that's what I'm going to do. So my next line is going to say 3x minus 1 minus, okay, now I have a common denominator. You're not just swapping the denominators like you may have thought originally. You only want to swap the part or the factor that is missing. That way you have a more reduced fraction to start with. Okay, now I'm going to do the subtraction, right? I got the common denominator. Now I'm actually going to put the numerators together. 3x minus 1, be super careful, minus x minus 1. So we get 2x minus 2. Okay, I could factor the numerator, but right now, this is it. You are looking to make a common denominator by swapping missing factors. Okay, so let's try this one. X over 2x plus 1 minus 3 over x plus 2. It looks like they both have one factor each. 2x plus 1, x plus 2. Just denominator. If I want to add fractions, I just need a common denominator. So swap the denominators. This time, they're missing both, right? The first one is missing x plus 2, and the second one is missing 2x plus 1. This one is what you're expecting. Just swap and multiply, right? But that's because they were different and they didn't share anything. Okay. X plus 2 minus okay. Now, because there's a lot of lines here, I'm just going to do my foiling right above that question, and then I will combine. So I get x squared plus 2x, 6x plus 3. Now I'm going to subtract. Okay? I don't want to keep writing the problem over and over again, so keep scratch paper handy. Okay? X squared minus 4x minus 3. Yeah, and that numerator is prime. It doesn't factor. So just leave it right at yes.
Is that because you apply the negative to it?
Yes, Because this negative is in front of the fraction, means you need to subtract all of it.
Okay.
Okay?
So you bring the denominator to the numerator.
Yeah, that negative does distribute. Okay. So we'll look. Questions. Multiply and divide fractions. Okay, so we're going to do a little placeholder so that we can write down. So let's say A over B times C over D. Okay. And then we'll do A over B divide. How do you actually multiply and divide fractions?
When you multiply the numerator by the denominator. Oh, sorry, the numerator and the denominator. Will you use multiply the numerator by the numerator and the denominator by the denominator?
Yes.
That's what I meant the whole time. I just couldn't.
A times C. You go straight across. You just multiply the numbers straight across. We just did that with radicals. Right? We had radicals that were fractions, right? You just multiply straight across. Okay. Multiply straight across. Okay. How about divide? Okay, multiply by reciprocal, yes. By reciprocal. I'd like to be more specific. Reciprocal of what? Yeah, CD, yeah, the one that comes after the division. Multiply by reciprocal of the fraction after the division, not the one before. It's the reciprocal of the one that comes after. So this becomes A times A over B times flip. That's what it becomes. And now it's a multiply problem. You go straight across. A times D over B times C. Those are just placeholders, right? Just so that we can write down how I actually do the division. Fraction after the division. Okay. And I'm going to throw in one reduce a fraction. Okay, how do you reduce a fraction? So I gave you two numbers, 120 over 8. Yeah. Very good vocab. You find the common factor. What's the common factor between 120 and 8? Really? 8? Oh, okay. Cool. All right, so... Oh, true. Okay, so 8 times... What do you get? 15, thank you. Okay. You find the common factor, and you can cross out the common factor. Cross out common factors of numerator and denominator. So just 15. Okay. Notice that if you look at the first two lines, A, C, B, D, those things are multiplied. Those are common factors. And so when we multiply and divide, we're going to try to give the most simple answer, which means we have to reduce when possible. Okay. So let's do, I guess this is actually example 3. Reduce. 2x squared minus 7x minus 4 over 4x squared minus 1. It's a fraction. Two x squared minus 7x minus 4. 4x squared minus 1. Okay, so if I look at my little reduce notes, it says find a common factor of the numerator and the denominator so I can cross it out. Well, factor, here we go. Factor your numerator, factor your denominator. Factor all expressions. Cross out common factors of numerator and denominator. Scratch paper for factoring is probably going to be helpful. Okay, maybe do it off to the side.
Whoa.
Nemo's gonna touch the button. You wouldn't have touched the button.
Okay, so this is it's an exercise in composition. It's also an
Wait. I mean, I just gave him
No, you see how those are
There's everything.
One. Okay, we're good.
That's how you count.
There was
Okay, here we go.
relatable, bro.
Keyword here. Okay, you can only cross out common factors. Factors are multiplied. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is multiply negative 8 and add to negative 7. I'm going to do guess and check. I'm just going to try to make this work. So I need outer and inner. So 2 times negative 4. 2x squared minus 8 plus 1. Okay, so that works. This one is difference of squares. Okay, look at the difference between where I started and what I have now. Factors. Factors are multiplied together. Those are the only things you can cross out that are the same on the top and the bottom. And it reduces to 1, right? 2x plus 1 over 2x plus 1 reduces to 1. And so our result is that's it. There's no more reducing. Reducing is only for common factors. Yeah.
Can you go over how to complete the square for that specific one? 4x squared minus 1.
You mean factor it?
Yeah, because you have to complete the square for it. Could you go over?
No, you don't have to complete the square.
You did difference of squares.
Difference of squares. Difference of squares. So they're perfect squares, and so a squared minus b squared. I'll write the formula down. Right, that was my formula. Okay. Okay. Here we go. X cubed minus 2x squared. X squared plus 2x plus 1 times 3x squared plus 4x plus 1 x squared plus 3x. Okay, so there's your multiply problem. Whew. Okay. It is not reasonable to think that I want you to multiply a binomial by a trinomial and a trinomial by a I don't actually want you to FOIL this out. I want you to give me a reduced answer. So multiply and reduce. Except that I'm not going to multiply first. I'm going to try to reduce first. We're going to try to reduce first. Then we'll multiply whatever happens to be left. Okay? So if I want to reduce before I multiply, then I should look to factor all 4 of those expressions. Okay? I'll factor the top left and the bottom left. You guys factor the top right and the bottom right. Okay, you factor the other 2 expressions. Right, I can't reduce until I have factors. Because I don't want to FOIL this. It's way too big. And so I'm going to try to reduce it before I do that multiplication.
Your mom.
Oh. Okay. There are all my factors. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 factors in the numerator. 1, 2, 3, 4 factors in the denominator. So I'm going to look for what's common. Yes.
Can't you immediately like cross on the bottom? For the left and
Yeah, we're getting there. Getting there.
Behind the meter.
I have a right. It's got to be 1 from the numerator, 1 from the common factor from the top and the bottom. Any other common factors? Yes. Right here. Those monomials, the ones not in parentheses, tend to like get overlooked. That's unit 5, guys. That's an exponent rule. So that's just x squared over x. And it reduces to x to the first power. Right? X squared over x reduces to x to the first power. Nothing else. The good news is you can actually leave these things in factored form for me. I don't need you to multiply this out. I just need the simplest factored form. Okay? Factored form is where we're going to leave our answers unless the directions tell you to do something different. Okay? Reduced, check, factored form. Reduced, factored form. So we get x minus 2, 3x plus 1. Okay, that is reduced factored form because I don't need you to multiply and distribute all of those things.